Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Command Zone podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Weeks, and we have a very special guest upgrader. It's Ladee Danger.
It's me, Ladee Danger.
We're here and we're talking about enchantments, and it's not a Golgari deck.
But it has green and black, so
but
we're
it's got
okay.
green and black. It's close. I'll be the white.
That's right, because you just did the podcast about white.
Yeah. You bring the green and black. I'll bring the white to this upgrade. This is the Abzan green, black, white enchantress precon from the Commander Masters. It's got sort of a graveyard sub-theme. We'll get into it a little bit deeper. But in this episode, we are going to add 10 cards to the deck. We're going to take 10 cards out to make this precon the best precon it can possibly be. An upgraded precon. And we're using a budget of $50 to make sure that you get the maximum punching power you can out of your deck. But before we get into it, if you hear any cards that we're talking about today and you're like, I need to get one of those for my Enchantress deck, or if you are upgrading this precon right here, go over to cardkingdom.com/command to get all of the singles and sealed product you need in your Enchantress life. Commander Masters Master Sets in general is a very special time for buying singles. It's when I am paying most attention to the prices of cards, and I'm always scouring the pages of Card Kingdom to make sure I'm getting the best deal on all of the singles that I need to upgrade all of my decks. Get those powerful cards while they're at their cheapest. And again, you can do that and get all of the cards you're looking for all in one place at cardkingdom.com/command. And once those cards are in your hand, you are going to need to protect them. Go over to ultrapro.com/command to get some of the highest quality Magic accessories in the business. Get your deck boxes, sleeves, playmats, all in the fantastic and official Magic art. Especially when we do these precon upgrade guides, if there is a precon that really calls your name, ULTRAPRO loves to make a whole collection around every single precon. So if you are really dedicated, you're really into Anikthea, you're watching the Enchantments deck, why wouldn't you be? You can get that over at ultrapro.com/command on a playmat, on some sleeves, get it on a binder. I don't know. Check it out. Sign up for their newsletter. Make sure you're always aware of what is coming out. The final way to support us is directly go to patreon.com/commandzone. That is where you can give your money straight to the show and make sure that we are making the highest quality, the coolest content, and you get the sweet perks of being a patron. You get access to game nights and extra turns a day early, so you're in the know. You will never have a game spoiled again. You get to say first on all of the games because you've already seen it. That's a special patron privilege.
And my favorite is Turn Talk, which is the episode that we do exclusive for patron only, where we talk about what happened in our extra turn games right after the game. So, I always love that. Rule zero conversation is kind of like post-game conversation. But you get to talk
to zero. It's Rule Z conversation.
Yeah. Rule 1 pi.
Yeah. Catch people while their emotions are hot and they're feeling passionate about their deck. Turn Talk is only available to patrons, and it is a ton of fun. Plus, the final perk is we shout out one lucky patron every single podcast episode, and this one is dedicated to Andrew Chen. Andrew, you rock. Thank you. All right, let's get into it. We are talking about the enduring enchantments precon. The names of these are always so silly. How many times can they name an Enchantress deck, do you think?
I want that job.
Enduring enchantments.
Why not alluring?
Alluring, and it doesn't start with E, lady.
Oh.
It's got to be like...
What's the word for that?
I don't know. Alliteration?
Yeah, alliteration.
It's got to be alliterative. Before we do any kind of upgrade on this precon, we want to first understand what is in the box that you buy off the shelf. And like all or many precons that we buy off the shelf, there are 2 available legends that you could put in the command zone. There's the face commander and there's the backup commander. And that is what we got here. So let's read that first one.
The first commander for this I guess, Precon, is Anikthea, Hand of Erebos. It's 2, a white, a black, and a green. 4/4 legendary enchantment creature, demigod. It has a menace. Other enchantment creatures you control have menace, or menace if you're familiar. Whenever Anikthea enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 target non-aura enchantment card from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 3/3 black zombie creature in addition to its other types.
Okay, so it's like an enchantment reanimator commander.
Which I love.
Yeah, and it important to remember that it triggers when she enters or attacks. So she's still got a little Titan thing going on, and buffs your enchantment creatures, which is cool because you're reanimating them as an enchantment creature. So 3/3s with menace. It also has like sort of a token thing.
Yeah, you're producing tokens, so it's definitely a very easy route that I think a lot of people will go with. This is making tons of. I mean, green and white is notorious for tokens, so I think it's a very easy way to go with this deck. But I mean, the one caveat is non-aura, and a lot of enchantments tend to be auras, especially if you're like protecting a lot of your creatures or anything like that. So there's a little bit of a caveat and non-auras, but.
I would expect the kind of enchantments that you see in a deck like this are big enchantments that either put themselves in the graveyard or mill or sort of feed your graveyard in some way. So you're really maximizing that reanimation ability.
I feel like a lot of enchantment creatures as well, which there's been so much more of.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a number in this deck. The second commander of this deck is a little bit more narrow, as they often are. This is Narci, Fable Singer. 1 white, black, green for a 3/3 human bard with a lifelink. Whenever you sacrifice an enchantment, draw a card. Whenever the final chapter ability of a saga you control resolves, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is that saga's mana value. Okay, so Narci's also a graveyard enchantment commander, but is a lot more saga focused.
Super saga focused.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people are going to put this in their, what is it, Tom Bombadil?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Move over Goldberry. That's Tom Bombadil's bow. Yeah, Narci seems very, very focused on sagas, notably when sagas, their final chapter triggers, they sacrifice themselves and go to the graveyard. So you would draw a card when they finish and also do this drain ability.
Yeah.
But it could be based around enchantments that send themselves to the graveyard. So maybe there's a little overlap there between Narci and Anikthea. Before we pick which commander is going to be best in the command zone, we want to get to know the 99 a little bit better. So we are going to break down the stats. What? Who is that?
Don't know.
It's like slid across the floor in the end. The stats. So we're going to talk first about the regular categories that we expect to see in every commander deck, starting with the number of ramp pieces.
We've got 17 ramp pieces in here.
Wow. That is a lot more than I would expect, honestly.
Honestly, me too.
You had a 5-mana commander in the command zone, I guess, so.
You got to get it out somehow.
Yeah.
We have 12 card draw pieces.
It seems a little bit low for an Enchantress deck,
yeah.
but 12 is like a respectable number, and Narci does have card draw built into her.
We've got 7 targeted interaction.
A little low as well. Although, maybe enchantments tend to be a little bit more prison-y, so they may not have as much targeted interaction. But 7 is lower than what we usually want.
We've got 2 wipes.
Wow. It's also low.
I feel like I've done a lot of these so far over the past few years, and it seems like you're always looking at, or at least the ones that I pick, 1 or 2. You don't really get like 5, or maybe I'm misremembering something, but it always feels very low, especially in these precons.
Yeah. 2 wipes is acceptable. I would think probably 3 for this deck, though.
We've got your favorite number of lands, Rachel,
Oh,
37.
37. That's where I start. That's my happy place. And 37 lands makes a lot of sense for this deck. and is what we've come to expect from these precons.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the stats that are a little bit more focused on the deck so we can help decide who goes in the command zone, if it's Narci or Anikthea.
Well, no surprise, there's 41 enchantments in this deck.
Okay, yeah,
That's
that
almost
makes sense.
50%.
That's a wild number. So 37 lands, 41 enchantments.
Unfortunately, there are only 7 sagas.
Wow, that's really quite low.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a big ding for Narci for me.
Not great for Narci. I mean, you would even think having them in your graveyard for Anikthea is great because...
Right, Anikthea works quite well with sagas because they send themselves to the graveyard.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay, so only 7 sagas. This next category is just stuff that cares about enchantments.
Yes.
Enchantment payoffs.
We've got 21 of them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Enchantment decks tend to be really, really synergistic and really reward you for those 41 enchantments.
Absolutely.
It's a huge build around type of thing. So you want to make sure you're getting the payoff for playing with almost exclusively enchantments.
Yeah, and I feel like we haven't seen an enchantment deck like this in a little while. So our next thing that we've got, another payoff, is 12 graveyard fillers, which is a huge plus for Anikthea.
Right. Anikthea cares about enchantments in your graveyard, so you want to make sure that you have ways to get your enchantments in there.
To the graveyard.
Graveyard fillers is a little vague, but we categorized it as anything that mills, anything that loots, or anything that sacrifices enchantments. Stuff that just gets other cards into your graveyard to fuel your commander's engine. And finally...
we've got 6 recursion cards.
That's pretty high. I mean, I like a lot of recursion in my deck, but 6 makes sense because it's an Abzan deck, which is very, very recursive 3-color group. Okay, so we've looked over the stats. That's what you can expect in this deck. That's a rough sort of long shot view of this deck. Knowing that, who did you decide should go in the command zone for this deck?
I mean, I think I read all the comments and I think they would all riot if I didn't go with the face commander. But honestly, I went with the face commander here because it just worked out so much better. There were not enough sagas to run Narci, even though I love the idea of it. I love the idea of gaining life and sacrificing life and dealing damage and all that stuff. But there just wasn't enough for me to really pick her as the face commander of this.
Right. Anikthea is a little bit more general and gives you more value that isn't really specific to a certain thing. Narci really relies on those 7 sagas in the deck. Plus, Anikthea has a very powerful ability itself. Like being able to bring high CMC enchantments back to the battlefield just every time you blink her or every time she attacks is quite the swing.
It's super strong. And the fact that she gives other enchantment creatures menace is, I think, something, I don't want to say new, because how much is new now, but it feels really fresh for Enchantress because you're usually playing like lockdown, just draw a card, do this, do that. And I don't feel like you're ever really attacking in a lot of this. So it's a new way maybe to play Enchantress.
The idea of a more aggressive Enchantress deck is refreshing. Like, we've seen a lot of support for artifact creatures, but not necessarily as much for enchantment creatures. So it's cool to know that we're getting both sides of this down the pipeline. Cool. So we've got Anikthea in the command zone. We have looked at this deck mechanically, what it does functionally as magic cards. But before we move on to this upgrade, we do want to talk about the financial value of this deck as well. So if you are picking up this precon, what are you going to get for your money? It is hard won and Magic is expensive. Why should you spend it on this deck? We're going to talk about the overall reprint value of the precon. That value is going to include just the reprints in the deck. Obviously, we do not have the monetary value of the new cards, and we're not including the value of the basics. So this includes 71 cards in the deck, and the total reprint value for this deck is
$130.75.
Okay. So normally $130 looks very good.
Yeah, that for a precon, that's looking great to me.
But the shelf price of these precons for Commander Masters is about double what we have seen of precons in the past. Yeah. So typically when we do these upgrade episodes, we are upgrading $40 precons, $40, $45 at most. These precons are anywhere between like $65 and $110. They're all over the place. But they're averaging about $80 each, which means that we would expect about twice the value in it. And $130 isn't close to that.
No, it's not feeling close. It's feeling kind of bad, honestly, but
yeah,
you know.
Like if we look at the average reprint value of $40 precons. In Baldur's Gate, our average reprint value was $104. Brothers War averaged about $95. All Will Be One averaged $101. March of the Machines averaged just one, averaged around $97. So they're all averaging out to about $100 for your $40. And this is only $130 for your $80. So in order to make that comparison a little bit clearer, I did some math and I found what I'm calling a bang for your buck quotient, which is math, the math of a journalism major. Anyway, so I took what the average reprint value of each set was and I divided it by roughly what its MSRP was. So I divided them by 40. The Baldur's Gate precons had $2.60 of cards for every $1 cash that you spent. So if you spend $1, you expect to get $2.60 of value back. Brothers War was about $2.38. All Will Be One was about $2.50. March of the Machine was about $2.40. So we've come to expect that if you spend $1 on a precon, you get more than that back, and you get 2.5 times that back, because that's sort of what these precons are, is they're giving you a box or a deck that you can play immediately. Yeah. And it's not really about the singles inside, it's about the
full deck potential.
The deck. So we're used to seeing about $2.50 per dollar. The Enduring Enchantments deck, alternatively, is $130.75. And if you spend $80 on it, if you divide that by $80, you get $1.63 of card value for your $1 in cash. It's almost a full dollar. It's a full dollar less than Baldur's Gate per cash. And it's like basically 75 cents less for every single dollar that you spent. So to go one step further, I took that $1.63 and I multiplied it by 40. It's like, what if we had a $40 precon with that same value? And that $40 precon would be valued at about $65.38, which is an abysmal price. That's nothing.
That's super bad.
Yeah, like if I spent $40 on a precon and I got $60 back, and that $60 is taken before the precon, like before the reprint values are announced. So you're not going to get $60 worth of value. You're going to get $30 worth of value.
Yeah, because once some of the cards get announced, people start, it changes everything.
Right. Once reprints are announced, the card values go down. That's just, there's going to be more in circulation. That's how it works. So we can't expect these prices to hold. And I can't in good conscience tell you to buy a precon that is only worth that amount. So unfortunately, the financial value for these decks are not really worth it.
That's how we feel about that.
That being said, we are going to talk about the notable reprints in the deck. We're going to talk. Did you get caught?
I did.
Nice. Pretty good. We are going to talk about the cards that are in here that you care about. These being the notable reprints, only the ones above $5. The ones that will, feasibly change from this reprint. Starting with the first one, which is a real nice reprint.
I love this reprint. Love to see it. It is Dryad of the Elysian Grove. Coming in at, right now, it's at $20.
This is a great reprint. It's really solid in Enchantress decks. It's great in Lands decks. It sees a ton of play in Commander. Happy to see it reprinted. Wish there were a number more of them. The next one is Starfield of Nyx, sitting at $15.25. A good reprint. Great in every Enchantress deck, especially graveyard ones.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it in forever. So.
Yeah, this reprint has been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm. I'm very happy for it. The next one is Grasp of Fate. Right now, currently $8.
Grasp of Fate, great removal spell, really efficient for Commander. Mm-hmm. One of the best enchantresses in the game, it's Setessan Champion. That one is at around $6. It has Constellation, so it draws whenever an enchantment enters rather than whenever you cast. Really strong.
Yeah, I think another one that people are going to be excited about is Mirari's Wake.
Yep.
We love an anthem.
Can't have too many Mirari's Wakes. Mana doublers plus an Anthem. Mirari's Wake is a strong and popular Magic card. And the final one is Cunning Rhetoric, which is about $5. I think this price is a little overblown. I don't think Cunning Rhetoric is a great card, and certainly not one worth $5.
Yeah.
So there's only $6 worth more than there's only 6 cards in this deck worth more than $5. So you can see why the reprint value is so low. Okay, but money isn't everything with these precons. Sometimes when you're buying it, you are buying a deck to play. So we want to talk about the best cards mechanically in the deck. The cards that when you draw them, you're like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Our engine is online. This is exactly the card I want for my deck.
Well, the card that I know we're cooking with gas. It's Setessan Champion. It's really just the card you want to see in your opening hand, honestly, if you're starting your game. So it has Constellation. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Setessan Champion and draw a card. All the things we love in life.
So Constellation Enchantresses are extra good in this deck, especially with your commander, because you are reanimating your enchantments. You are not casting them. So this one will draw every time an enchantment enters the battlefield and doesn't rely on you casting it from hand. Mm-hmm. This next one is a menace in any Enchantress deck. It's Doomwake Giant. Doom. 4 and a black for an enchantment creature giant. Whenever it has Constellation as well, whenever Doomwake Giant or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until end of turn. He himself is a 4/6. So this is a repeatable one-sided board wipe.
Yes, we love it. It's an enchantment creature. It's an enchantment creature, so Anikthea can get it out of your graveyard and give that menace. Woo, boy, howdy. Love it.
She gives it menace, like whether you reanimate it or not, because it's naturally a creature.
Yep.
Doomwake Giant's great in this deck and is going to keep you from getting hit with a whole bunch of tokens in particular. Oh, this last one's a new card.
It's a new card, and there's only 10 new cards in this deck.
Yeah.
I was very excited about this one. It's called Cacophony Unleashed. It is 5 a black and a black for an enchantment. When Cacophony Unleashed enters the battlefield, if you cast it, destroy all non-enchantment creatures.
Nice.
Whenever Cacophony Unleashed or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control until the end of turn, Cacophony Unleashed becomes a legendary 6/6 nightmare god creature with menace and death touch. It's still an enchantment.
Okay, there's a lot going on here. This is a 7-mana board wipe. Notably, you cannot reanimate it with your commander and then wipe the board because it says if you cast it, destroy all non-enchantment creatures. But it is a one-sided board wipe most of the time, and then it's a payoff anytime an enchantment enters after that. 6/6 Menace Death Touch is a pain to block. And is going to take some real bites out of your life total.
We love it.
Cool. So those are the cards that we were most excited to see in your hand. Know that you're going to be a problem at your table. We are going to get into the 10 cards to add to this deck and 10 cards to take out to make room for them in just a few moments. But first, a brief word from our sponsors. Josh, do you know where we put what is going on here?
How's it?
Why is everyone dressed like you?
I know, isn't it great? I got tired of going to a dozen different websites looking for new employees, but now with my Quai guys, I can be everywhere all at once.
Why don't you just use Indeed, the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place? They have powerful tools that streamline the hiring process and save you a ton of time. Like Indeed's hiring platform, where all the hard work is done for you. They match you with quality candidates the moment you sponsor a post, and only ones whose resumes meet your job description. In fact, Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined.
That is impressive, but could we hire more Joshes?
I think we have enough.
Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/CommandZone. Offer good for a limited time.
Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/CommandZone. Just go to Indeed.com/CommandZone and support the show by saying you heard about it on this podcast.
Again, that's Indeed.com/CommandZone. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Whether you're searching for the latest sneaker drop, that iconic handbag, a timeless watch, or your next piece of classic jewelry, eBay authenticators are there verifying every detail of your purchase.
Yep, we're talking each inch, stitch, tick, facet, and clasp that make the piece you're searching for worthy of your collection.
eBay's authenticators are experts in their craft, true connoisseurs.
And as leaders in their fields, they're making sure your items always arrive as authentic as your style. So go ahead, get that piece you've always wanted.
And leave it up to the meticulous eyes of an eBay authenticator to make sure that watch movement is original, that glimmer is real gold, that rare sneaker is legit, or that handbag is really made of genuine leather, and never get faked over again.
In a world full of fakes, it's time to get real with eBay Authenticity Guarantee.
Everyone deserves real. Visit ebay.com for terms.
Browsing for some new tech?
Yeah, I'm building Tiamat and ARCHIDEKT. Ooh, how about Zergo and Ojutai?
Did you just drag and drop that card image directly into your deck?
Yep, with ARCHIDEKT, you can drag and drop card images from EDH, Rec, or Scryfall directly into the deck list. No typing required.
That is so cool.
Ooh, okay, check this out. I'm gonna drag and drop Dragon Storm into the deck, and then boom, I'm gonna drop a bunch of dragons on the battlefield.
A 9-drop, huh? Seems ambitious.
It was just for the pun. ARCHIDEKT is the best place to browse, brew, and playtest commander decks. Just go to archidekt.com/commandzone to get started.
That's ARCHIDEKT.com/commandzone.
Welcome back, everybody. We are talking about the Enduring Enchantments Precon deck from Commander Masters. We are upgrading it. We're going to add 10 cards. We're going to take 10 cards out using a budget of $50. But before we do that, I want to get your impression of the deck just as a precon, how it plays without any upgrades, and what you wanted to do with the upgrades that you added.
Well, the first thing I'll say is I've done a lot of these so far. This one to me feels so out of the box, ready to go as it is in an enchantment shell. Like it gives you a lot of cards that you want to do the thing with. And I was very surprised, and it made my cuts really hard when I did have to go and decide what I was going to keep, what was going to go. So, you know, your commander, you want to attack, you want to have your enchantments out on the battlefield, you want to have your enchantments in the graveyard, you want to bring them back, and you want to turn them into zombies, and you want to attack some more. It's pretty straightforward. I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like the value on this deck is low, but you look at the list and you're like, these are the cards I put in my enchantment decks. Like these are the enchantresses that I tend to run. These are the cost reducers. Like all of these are very real Magic cards. They just don't happen to cost that much. So the list naturally looks like an enchantment list.
There were so many times as I was deciding, like, before, I always put my cards in before I make any of the cuts. So as I was looking through the list, I was like, oh, I definitely want to put this in there. And then I'd look and I was like, wait, it's already in there. Oh, I'm going to put this. Oh, it's already in there.
Yeah.
So I was like going back and forth with myself and you, and I'm like, where should we put this in there? And Rachel's like, it's already in there.
It's in the list.
It's on the list. And I was like,
had it.
I don't know how to read. I only play Magic. No read, only Magic.
I wanted to mention before we get into the exact cards that we decided to add, this deck definitely looks like an enchantment deck. It has a ton of enchantress spells. It has a pretty rough mana base. So we're not going to talk about ways to upgrade the mana base. Generally, we use the same lands. We talk about the same lands a lot. Those are the kind of lands that we would put into this deck. The mana base as is sort of weird.
It's really weird.
It's worth noting that the deck has 2 tainted lands, which are lands that only tap for colored mana if you control a swamp. And tainted lands are great. They're untapped. They tap for like 2 colors. That's usually really good Commander. Problem is, there's only 5 swamps in the deck, and they're just basics.
So you essentially always need to keep a swamp in your opening hand. Like, without a doubt. I mean, you should have one in your opening hand anyways, but it makes the mana base really clunky if you don't.
Yeah, or like anytime you're searching for a basic, there's a number of cards that like fetch basics out of your deck, and normally you're like, okay, what cards do I want like double pips of, and what spells are in my hand? How do I want to get a swamp?
You must get a swamp.
If you don't have a swamp and you draw a tainted land, it's just a colorless land. So prepare for that, or put some money into upgrading this mana base. I don't know what lands you have at home, but it would be money well spent to making this deck sort of play more smoothly.
Yeah.
That being said, we like talking about spells to add. It does more for the deck long term. So let's talk about the 10 cards that we're putting into it to get it into fighting shape. Remember, we've used $50 for this budget upgrade.
$50.
Yeah. We're going to do some real money.
So the first card that I decided to put in here, and it wasn't just because this was a Command Zone preview card, it's because it's an actual bomb in this deck.
Oh, yeah.
It is Nyx Bloom Ancient. It is 4 green and 3 greens. It's a 5/5 enchantment creature elemental. It's got trample. If you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. So I know we were talking about the mana base. Get Nyx Bloom Ancient out and you're feeling pretty nice.
Oh, yeah. You're casting everything in your hand. If you have an Enchantress on the board, you are really starting to churn. Enchantress decks tend to have a ton of cards.
Yes.
But they're choked on the mana that they have. So a Nyx Bloom Ancient goes a very long way to making sure you can cast all the spells and draw all the cards.
It'll have menace and you can bring it back from your graveyard when somebody decides, I've had enough of that.
Yep. Really great spell to reanimate. Okay, this next one is a staple in enchantment decks as well, and it's only $2.25.
You know, I'm a budget lady.
It's Sterling Grove. Green-white for an enchantment. It says other enchantments you control have Shroud. It also has an activated ability that says 1, sacrifice Sterling Grove, search your library for an enchantment card, reveal it, then shuffle, and put that card on top. There's a couple great things about Sterling Grove.
A lot.
Protects your commander. And it sacrifices itself, so it can draw a card for Narci.
Yep.
And you can reanimate it from the graveyard with Anikthea. And it tutors. What more could you ask for? It's $1. It's $2.25.
$2, and it's only 2 mana.
Shroud's a little tricky, like especially if you're trying to like blink your commander, which we will talk about in a second. If you give your commander Shroud, then you can't blink it. But if your opponents can't touch it, then it's pretty safe.
Then you don't need to blink it.
Then you're good. So Sterling Grove, good. And if Shroud is messing you up, sack it. Go find a new enchantment. That seems good too. This next one, I can't believe isn't in the deck, honestly.
You know what? Me too, but I don't make these decks.
They have to leave room for us to make upgrades.
Yeah, they have to. I can't make it perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people would be really excited if they did, but you know what? It's not perfect if somebody else is making it. You have to make it yourself, and then it's perfect for you.
See, that's very nice.
So I added in Weaver of Harmony. It's 1 and a green. It's a 2/2 enchantment creature, Snake Druid. Other enchantment creatures you control get +1/+1. And then it has an activated ability. You can pay 1 green and tap it. Copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an enchantment source. You may choose new targets for that copy.
This is it all. I mean, it's an anthem for your reanimated creatures and all of your enchantress effects. And you can double the triggered ability of your commander or any of the sagas in your deck.
We love it.
Or any of like the sacrifice on the Sterling Grove or not Nyx Bloom Ancient because that doesn't use the stack. Weaver of Harmony is really going to put in a lot of work, and I don't think this is the kind of card that your opponents like to spend removal spells on.
No.
So great little value piece. I love it a lot.
It's only $1.50.
Nice.
I know you love this card, Rachel.
I do. It is Teleportation Circle. It is only $6. 3 and a white for an enchantment. It says at the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 target artifact or creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. So your commander has an attack trigger, but it's way easier to reuse that ETB in Commander than it is to attack with a, what is she, a 4/4?
She's a 4/4.
She's a 4/4 Menace. That's good.
It does change it a little bit. Menace it tends to be hard to get around early game, but late game, people usually have a lot of blockers up.
Yeah, they're going to be able to find a way to block your commander. So attacking with her isn't always as safe as you want it to be. That teleportation circle means that you will trigger her every single turn without having to risk her in battle. Only $6, real good.
So the next card I decided to add is Touch of the Spirit Realm. It is 2 and a white. It's an enchantment. When Touch of the Spirit Realm enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target artifact or creature until Touch of the Spirit Realm leaves the battlefield. It also has Channel, which you can pay 1 and a white, discard Touch of the Realm, exile target artifact or creature, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step.
This card does a lot for you as well. That channel ability, that channel ability, blinks your commander, which is what you want. And you could use your commander to reanimate Touch of the Spirit Realm, I suppose, if you want to Oblivion Ring an artifact or creature. But you could also blink it now, reanimate a big enchantment, and later you'll have an enchantment that you can reanimate at any point. Gets an enchantment in your graveyard, removal, blink, the whole package.
I know
Plus, it's channel, so you can't counter it.
Right? It's only 50 cents.
Yeah, it's good. Play it.
Oh,
good one.
I love it.
Yeah.
This one's a fun one.
Very cool tech for this deck. I liked it a lot.
This is a Vessel of Nascency. It is a green enchantment, and you can pay 1 and a green, sacrifice Nestle of Vacancy, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker card from among them into your hand, put the rest into your graveyard. So this is a fun way to fill your graveyard. You want tons of stuff hypothetically, you would like tons of stuff in your graveyard to bring back with Anikthea.
Yeah, Vessel of Nascency is really tidy. It's 1 mana to put onto the battlefield. If you have an Enchantress, you draw a card off of it right away. Then you activate it. You draw another card that you can't get back from the graveyard. I don't know, a swamp.
Oh, yes.
Or an artifact or creature or something else. Put all of your enchantments into the graveyard and you can reanimate them later with your commander. You can reanimate Vessel of Nascency and get a 3/3 Vessel. That's cool too.
And you can attack with it.
Does a lot for a very cheap little enchantment. Again, only 25 cents.
I think this is not one of the... it's probably one of the best cards I put in.
Ads,
but yeah, one of the best ads we put in here. It's Greater Good. It's 2 and a green enchantment. Sacrifice a creature. Draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. Then discard 3 cards.
Man, Greater Good puts in so much work, especially in decks that really use its graveyard. And you're making 3/3 creatures, so you can sacrifice them, draw 3, discard 3.
Yep.
Ton of selection, loading up your graveyard with enchantments that you can reanimate with your commander. Really, really powerful. And Greater Good is only $5 right now. If you don't have a couple of Greater Goods, make sure that you have some in your collection, because this is the type of card that everybody remembers and is like, oh yeah, I need like 3 Greater Goods.
You're like, you see it at a table and you're like, woo, it does what? You're doing how?
It's also just free sack outlets in Commander.
So good.
Just come in handy. Like, even if you're not playing an aristocrat deck that's built around things dying, being able to sack something in response to an exile spell so you can reanimate it later, being able to sacrifice something in response to a theft spell.
Yes.
Most of the time people won't target you with steal stuff spells because you have a sack outlet.
Yep.
So you can just redirect things naturally, especially when you can sacrifice something and get cards out of it. Goes a long way. Love a Greater Good. This next one's one of my favorites. It's a little slow, but he's cool. Shigeki Jukai Visionary. 1 and a green for a legendary enchantment creature snake druid. He is a 1/3 with an activated ability that says 1 and a green, tap, return Shigeki to its owner's hand, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped, put the rest into your graveyard. It also has Channel, XX green, discard Shigeki, return X target target non-legendary cards from your graveyard to your hand. Shigeki does a lot for you. It's ramp. It's mill. It's an enchantment that you can cast repeatedly with your with your enchantresses on board.
Yep.
So you can get all of your triggers and you can draw even more cards. Plus, it has that channel ability when you're done doing the slow cast and mill and ramp thing, just to get some stuff back from the graveyard, reload your hand, and get ready for the end game.
Also, it will get menace from your commander.
That too.
I mean, I don't know. Sometimes chip damage gets you the game. So,
yeah, for sure.
If you have to attack,
you take
good.
those. You take those.
So normally we don't mess around with the land bases here, but with that whole shenanigans of the land base, I did decide to switch out one of the lands, and I put in Gyre Reach Sanitarium, which is a legendary land. You can add a colorless, and you can pay 2. Each player draws a card, then discards a card. So it doesn't give you colored mana, but you might not have gotten colored mana anyways. But what it does do is it allows you to get cards into your grave, draw a card, and then put cards in your graveyard, which is what you want to be able to pull out of your graveyard before I eat a microphone.
Yeah. I mean, this, like, Gyre Reach Sanitarium is really great because you can do it at instant speed. Like, if you Gyre Reach at the end of your opponent's turn, where you draw a card, you discard, and Nyx Bloom Ancient. Everybody goes, oh no. Because next turn, you cast your commander, reanimate a Nyx Bloom Ancient, tap all your lands for 9 mana, slam some big spell, and people are like, what happened?
Yeah.
So this instant speed looting is what we're looking for because your commander is very telegraphed, so you can't let people know what you're doing. Like, you really don't want to draw, discard, and then pass.
No, your opponents are really going to be paying attention to what is in your graveyard and what you're doing. So instead of, like Rachel said, attacking is going to be really hard if they know what's in your graveyard. So, linking Anikthea, I think, is going to be a very strong way to play it as a deck. I know a lot of people will go the token route. It's, it's very, very linear and super easy to do, and I've done it a million times, and the internet has told me do something different. So I'm doing something different.
Yeah, I like Gyre Reach. It's also sweet with Touch the Spirit Realm because you could like draw, discard something, channel the Touch the Spirit Realm, blink your commander, instant speed, reanimate something. Pretty slick.
If only you could give it haste.
I mean, yeah, you're blinking it. It's entering the battlefield. It'll be fine. One more thing, if you're playing Abzan, you need it.
You must have it. I'll do it.
Do it.
It's Eerie Ultimatum. It is a lot of mana. I'm sorry. It's 7 mana.
White, black, green, 7 altogether.
It's a sorcery. Return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield, which will be all of them because we play Commander and. Well, depends on, unless you're playing.
Yeah, this is a permanent base deck. Most of what's in your graveyard is going to come back to the battlefield. Yes. With the exception of Eerie Ultimatum, I suppose. That's a spell. Or an instant or sorcery. It's not a permanent.
It is $4.50 currently.
Yeah, but this card wins games. I mean, when you think you're down and out and you're like, they have somebody cast an austere command, they blew up all of my enchantments, I am feeling rough. And then you draw Eerie Ultimatum and you're like, actually, I think I win?
Yeah, I think I have it now.
So,
it's like
really good.
Yeah, it's like a Rise of the Dark Realms just for yourself.
Yeah. Worth every penny. And that is our 10th card that is going into this deck, totaling $45.75.
On a budget.
Nice. Leaving you with $4.25 to go buy a couple swamps to put into this deck. Of course, we have added 10 cards, which means we have to take 10 cards out. A sad moment for every deck. We will play taps as each card leaves. This first one looks suspicious, but it makes sense because we've added a land. It's a forest.
I'm not taking out a swamp. There's only 5.
There's only 5. We need those. Yeah. So there's plenty of forests in the deck. Getting rid of one is not going to make that big of a difference.
So we're also getting rid of Arcane Signet. The ramp. The deck has a ton of ways to ramp.
What is it? 17 pieces of ramp in this deck?
17 pieces of ramp in this. And, I mean, you're playing Enchantress. You're going to be drawing lots of cards. Let's be real. Most likely, you'll be okay.
Also, when I'm building ramp, if I'm building a highly synergistic deck like Enchantress, I want my ramp to be on an enchantment. This is an artifact. What are you doing here?
Get out of here.
Speaking of which, the next one's Rampant Growth. Again, we have 17 pieces of ramp. If we're keeping our ramp, it's enchantment based. And Rampant Growth doesn't quite do enough.
It does ramp, but growth for me does not. Mm-hmm. This one, I feel like I just don't need it. It's a Rasta of the Endless Web. I do love spiders, but it's in every single green precon that's ever been printed.
They love this card.
And like, sure, it could be fine.
You know why?
Why?
It blocks Zetalpa.
They need it to protect the Zetalpa.
I can make reach creatures that block Zetalpa.
Oh yeah, it's got that and Atali.
Yeah,
Atali's and everything
you can
too.
Chump
So
block
yeah,
them all day. Yeah, a Rasta of the Endless Web just isn't really the best enchantment creature that we're doing here. The spiders that it makes aren't even enchantments.
If they were,
also.
I would have kept it.
Yeah, if it's making more enchantments, then we know exactly what we're doing here. But this isn't really a token deck, and it also it's a sort of a weird include.
I know you don't love this one. Tell him why. Tell him why.
This next one's Abundance, and my friend Dan will hate me for doing this, but it's 2 green for an enchantment. It's whenever you would draw a card, instead you may choose land or non-land, and you decide which one you get. What I don't like about Abundance is I'm paying 4 mana to have a slightly better draw next time. And long-term over the course of the game, yes, it will put in work. But you're playing an enchantment deck. You're drawing a ton of cards. You don't need great selection because you're drawing a ton of cards. So Abundance feels expensive and really not worth the tempo hit.
All right, so the next one I cut, which did hurt my soul a little bit, is Dreadhorde Invasion. It's an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and amass 1. And then whenever a zombie token you control with power 6 or greater attacks, it gains lifelink until the end of turn, which you think, oh, Anikthea makes zombies. They're 3/3s. It's really, like, if they were 6/6s, 1, that would be broken. And then you would do a ton of work with Dreadhorde Invasion. But it's just not really going to do exactly what you need. It is an enchantment, but better things were put in.
Yeah, you need like Dreadhorde Invasion plus one of the big anthems in the deck plus your commander on board to really get that moving. Dreadhorde Invasion is really best served in aristocrat decks.
Absolutely.
The next one is one of the few sagas. It's the love song of Night and Day. Just doesn't have it doesn't have the card draw that you want. It doesn't really have the token creation that you want, and it doesn't really have the anthem that you want. The card just isn't quite good enough.
I mean, it does have a little bit of those things, but ultimately we were focusing less on tokens and more of mill, graveyard, recursion, and I kept all of the sagas that did that.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, we'll get rid of it.
Sure.
The next one we got cut. It is Omen of the Sun.
Get out of here, son.
Sun, we don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
We have the night sky and the stars of Theros. Is Omen of the Sun. It's an enchantment. It's flash. When Omen of the Sun enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 white human soldier creatures. And then you gain 2 life. You can sacrifice it, so that's nice. It does, Anikthea things, but I don't want the tokens. I really don't care because I'm not going a token route, so I decided to boot it.
Doesn't do enough. This next one is Cunning Rhetoric. It's 2 and a black for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent attacks you and or one of your planeswalkers you control, exile the top card of that player's library. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast it. A lot of the time you look at Cunning Rhetoric and you're like, this is defense. People won't attack me. If I draw their cards, they will. They'll give you their card. And the thing is, you're playing Enchantress. Their cards aren't very good for you.
No.
You have a very specific strategy where you cast an enchantment to draw 2, to cast an enchantment to draw 2. You're playing Storm. You don't want their
junk,
like other stuff that just doesn't work with what you're doing. It's not worth it. Despite it being $5.
So it's worth it for somebody somewhere, but not me, not now, not ever.
Not anyhow.
So the last card I cut was Sandworm Convergence. It's 6 and a green enchantment. Creatures with flying can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. At the beginning of your end step, create a 5/5 worm creature token. So if you're making tokens, pretty good for a token deck. I just don't really care too much about this token. I care about tokens coming out of my graveyard.
You could reanimate the Sandworm Convergence, but then it's really vulnerable. It's a 3/3 zombie. It's very easy to kill, and you're making worms, but it's not It's very slow engine, and it's a very vulnerable piece.
You're making worms, and they're not even enchantments. So, they're not going to have menace. They're just going to be 6/6 worm. I'm sorry, 5/5 green worms, which are fine if you were going that route. But I said nay.
They also love a sandworm convergence. That's another one that catches
They need
a
to
lot
find
of reprints.
new ones to put in there.
They're like, what's
Quote me
the
on
biggest enchantment you can think of? Sandworm convergence, Jinx. Like,
Put it in there. We are vouching get better other cards in these precons.
there is other top end in the world. Help us out here. Okay, so we've added 10 cards. We've taken 10 cards out. We have a perfect 100 card precon upgrade. How does the deck work?
So, as I talked about before, very linear. It's an enchantress deck, but it's an Abzan. So you have the splash of black that's going to allow you to recur. So not only do you want to play your enchantments, you want them to go to the graveyard. You want to sacrifice your enchantments for value, and you want to use your sagas to mill yourself and your opponents. But you don't really want to attack with your commander. I would say early on, probably attack with your commander while everybody's open, but later on, you want to blink it. You want to blink it, and you want to return stuff from your graveyard and then attack them with those creature tokens that have menace.
Yeah, I love that. And this is a really interesting angle of Enchantress we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
Like there's a little bit of Enchantress like reanimation going on with the 5-color Shrine Commander.
Yeah.
But this one is specifically Abzan. It feels a lot tighter, feels a lot more focused. And I think you can do some really neat things with it overall. Plus it introduces this sort of like blinky enchantment creature deck, which is a whole new flavor. And I love that they're doing that for us. To the listeners, what do you think about the Enduring Enchantments Precon? Any cards we missed? Any cards we suggested to take out or add that you disagree with? Let us know in the comments. If you've started building Anikthea or Narci, let us know what your sweet, sweet tech is. We want to know. We want to see it. We are reading them, I promise.
I respond to a lot of the comments about like picking like what other people put in, what, questioning some of mine. And I'm like, sometimes I just wanted to put it in there and I liked it. So, my joy to you. Please enjoy.
If you liked any of the cards that we talked about today, if you're going to make these changes to your deck, or if you want to pick up the precon itself, go over to cardkingdom.com/command. Card Kingdom has a huge selection of singles and sealed product. Again, Commander Masters is a great time to be looking at singles prices and picking up those hefty booster boxes themselves. If you were trying to grow your Commander collection, there is not a better time than on or after a Commander Masters set comes out. So go over to cardkingdom.com/command, get the cards you're looking for, and support the show you love.
Love us.
Once those cards are in your hand, you're going to need to protect them. Go over to ultrapro.com/command to pick up those sleeves and the deck boxes. You need to build all of these precons and get them upgraded adequately. UltraPro has great deals and high quality products that make sure that you can sleeve up and protect all of your Commander decks. I have 25 of them. I've bought a lot of sleeves. And we love UltraPro because they have the official Magic art and their stuff is always high quality. So again, make sure you're signed up for that UltraPro newsletter. Make sure that you get access to whenever a new drop comes out, whenever a new set comes out, when they launch a new wave of products, or they just have a sweet, sweet deal going on. ultrapro.com/command.
Got to keep an eye out for those secret lair playmats.
Yeah.
They are a hot commodity and they go fast.
Yeah, sign up for those newsletters. Make sure that you know what's coming out. All right, we have talked a lot about Magic. What's going on in your life outside of Magic? Let's go to the end step.
Head empty. Only
magic.
Only magic.
There is only magic in here. Sparkles and enchantments. And also zombies.
Zombies, yeah. Zombies. Okay, anyways, I won't impress you with my singing vocal range. So what I've been doing, I have a lot of people asking me because I say taking a break from Magic is healthy. Taking a break from the internet is healthy. So what I do is I'm prepping for an event called Wasteland Weekend. So those of you that like LARPing or like festivals festivals. It is a post-apocalyptic festival in the desert. Not quite Burning Man, but very similar. But it's all kind of based around Mad Max. So everybody dresses up like these Mad Max, like costumes, and costumes are non-negotiable. You must be in theme. It is very fun. I've been going for years. I have a whole group of people that I make art with in the desert. We're called the Wasted Saints, and I've just been making stuff for that. Every weekend we've been prepping. It's in September. It's
every weekend we're like, lady, what are you doing this weekend? She's like, I'm making a hut. And you're like, what?
It's a swamp
I'm building
shop.
a shack from my hands.
They're like, do you want a draft? No, I'm building a swamp that looks like it's been decrepit for 1 millennia.
Do you know where I can get 100 crocodile keychains?
Literally. The whole theme is like post-apocalyptic.
Post-apocalypticus is my favorite dinosaur.
And it's supposed to be like Southern Gothic, New Orleans, inspired. And so I'm finding all kinds of fun gator stuff. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, come on by the swamp shop and come look at all the stuff that I made.
Hopefully there will be a ton of pictures from this event. I've seen a couple of pictures of you from previous years.
Yeah,
awesome.
I have a mini.
It's so impressive.
I have like a mini monster truck based off of a gravedigger, not Tonka truck, but what do they call it?
Like a Hot Wheel?
No, not Hot Wheels. The ones that kids drive in.
Oh, like a K car type of thing. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Power Wheels. There we go.
Power Wheels.
It was built off of an old gravedigger Power Wheels because spoiler alert.
Old. I was picturing like the pedal ones.
I thought about it, but I'm also super big into monster trucks. So I built I found one online and I've just been souping that up. So it's, get weird, live your life.
Yeah.
Do things that make you happy.
It's so fun, and it's such a cool way to spend your time and energy to create a world for yourself. It's very cool.
My money goes to magic and weird stuff.
Before we get out of here, I want to say thank you to our amazing team here at the Command Zone: Damon Lentz, Eric Lem, Megan Yip, Gaurav Galati, Jordan Pridgeon, Jamie Block, Arthur Meadowcroft, Manson Lung, Josh Murphy, Jake Boss, Sam Waldo, Evan Limburger, Craig Blanchett, Katie Cole, Mitch Trafford, Gabriel Posas, Josh Lee Kwai, Jimmy Wong, and of course, Ladee Danger.
And also Rachel Weeks.
And
everybody give it up for Rachel Weeks doing the heavy lifting.
You did the heavy lifting on this one. This is a Ladee Danger original. Thank you for taking the time to do these upgrades. It's fun seeing everybody's personality come out when they do the upgrades. And it's always fun having you do a Golgari.
One day maybe I'll teach people how to play it. Who knows?
Someday. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.